But I think what the story also seems to do is offer a sense of how the Underground Railroad has been thought about over the years. And it's been a very difficult, challenging concept to get your arms around and to understand. Because in many ways, the Underground Railroad, the story of it, is really a very mythical story in the history of the United States. It's shrouded with mystery and with romance, and people aren't quite sure how you begin to dissect its true story. Because the people who were part of this activity are really shadowy figures and participants. Stories about who were part of it, what routes were followed, what buildings were used, how many people escaped are numerous, and they're also hard to substantiate. It's really hard to nail down precisely what is true and what is not. But what it does do is make for wonderful tales of drama and excitement and heroism that excite people a great deal. In these stories, there are heroes and heroines around every turn. There are many larger-than-life individuals who risk their future to help these individuals try to gain their freedom. And together, they all make for wonderful stories and sometimes folklore about the mythical nature of the Underground Railroad. But what it also tends to do is to make the task of doing research on this topic, of separating the myth from the reality, much, much harder to do, but nonetheless important for us to understand and begin to get a grasp of and to understand the history that goes with it. For example, it's hard for us to know exactly when does the Underground Railroad get started. The story of Titus Davis is just a story, but it doesn't tell us precisely when this activity begins to operate. Different historians, different scholars have thought about it in different kinds of ways. For example, John Hope Franklin, who I know was here not too long ago, dates it back to around the turn of the century, around 1804 and 1805. Others look more closely at the period from 1830 to the 1860s, arguing that it's much better organized at that stage, and therefore it's a better time to really talk about it as a coherent set of activities. But what is true is that it's really not easy to say which of these points of view, which of these perspectives is right. It could have been even earlier, because I think it's fair to assume that as soon as there was slavery, as soon as there were people held in captivity, there were also people searching and trying to gain their own freedom, and there were others willing to step forward to help them. So I think that we really can't say for sure when it gets started, but we do know that early on, there are individuals who wanted their freedom. There are others around who were willing to support them in that effort to gain that freedom.